Welcome, Raina KJ. It's nice to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Rinke.
So, who is the lady behind Career Nuggets? Who is Raina KJ?
Simply me.
I like
really,
that.
I can tell you a little bit about my childhood.
Yes, I think we're going to take it from there. That would be a nice place to take it from. Okay.
All right.
So, were you born here, or where were you born, or were you back in Nigeria?
I'm a Taffy girl. I'm a Taffy girl. I was born in Cardiff.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the first 9 years of my life were in Cardiff.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, and then after 9 years, my mom decided to go back to her family.
Okay.
Which is a country in Africa, which I'm sure you know of, called Nigeria.
Okay.
And we went back to Nigeria.
Okay, so when you say we, so...
My mom, my sister, and I. My dad left me when I was 18 months old.
Oh, okay.
He kind of abandoned us. That's how I like to say it, because that's what he really did.
Okay. So how then, in terms of, so those 9 years being here, your dad gone, how was, upbringing with your mom and your sister, single mom? How was that while you were here, within those 9 years?
In that 9 years, it was really good. The support network is really good, and particularly the church supported us a lot in Wales. And very good memories. But when we relocated back to Nigeria...
What was that like? That must have been a shock system, isn't it?
That is an understatement.
Really?
It was completely a contrast, because my mom went back to where her family was, and that was totally, really, a very deprived area. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So we living in Wales, as you know here, you have all the basic amenities,
yes.
Water, food to eat, a roof over your head. Going back to Nigeria, where we went to, was literally like what you call like a village.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so no lights. So we had to use lanterns. I don't know if anybody knows what lantern is, but basically lantern.
So there was no electricity, basically, or it was just constantly. No.
It was there was electricity, but it just never seemed to come on.
Okay. So there might as well have not been any.
Yes, likewise water. And quite a few occasions I'll find myself going to the stream to fetch water on my head.
So this is a 9-year-old coming from the UK where you would open a tap, everything runs as normal.
Yes.
Find yourself not knowing why in this, and you're finding that obviously you don't have all those basic amenities again, and then having to go to the stream at times to get water.
Yeah, and not only that, literally everybody I was living around could not understand my accent, obviously.
Oh yes, that's true.
So that just
oh, that is so true.
so that basically made me very timid. I went into a shell, because if I altered any word, people were making fun of me.
Oh wow.
But my mom, she held education. It was really important to her, and whatever she did, even she was a nurse. Okay. So it wasn't like she couldn't, she had the money as a nurse. Yes. But in an environment where we're living, there were so many people depending on her. So it looked like that same salary, she was feeding like 50 people. Wow. Okay. Which meant we struggled to have even food, just one meal a day, basic things. Yes. But she valued education a lot. So she coached me by herself for about a year.
At home?
At home.
Wow.
Homeschooling. Because with that environment, I couldn't go to the local schools. That you can imagine what would happen. I would be bullied. And the private schools then, she couldn't afford. So she homeschooled me. Okay. And then I go into one of the Unity schools, literally like your grammar schools here, one of the top schools.
Yeah, top schools. Okay. Okay. So this 9-year-old who didn't know who she was now hosts a career show. And that's what we're here to talk about. That journey, that transition is what we're here to talk about. And that's really, really amazing. So getting into secondary school with all these posh classmates, how did you do that? Did you just sort of like went into a shell? You just cut yourself off? How did you have to deal with that?
Essentially, that's exactly what I did. I avoided people, didn't really have friends, went into my shell. Even in school, I was so self-conscious of myself. I just didn't feel anything important about me. Now, that's one aspect, because that's school. Yes, people bullied, people made fun. Yeah. I couldn't really fit in. That happened for the 5 years. But even going back home was another challenge. Like I said earlier on.
Why was that challenge? Because you've got your mom.
Yes, I've got my mom. But I said earlier on, I was abandoned by my dad. Yes. Now, my mom was her husband's childhood sweetheart. Okay. Now, knowing what I know now, I understand them, but then I did not understand.
Right,
so you can understand this 9-year-old girl who all of a sudden had to be kind of leader in her home. There was so much expectation on me. My mom just wanted me to be a husband, be a everything thing for her. I was under a lot of pressure, and she would take out anything on me. So it could be as simple as, why did you put the cup there? Before I know it, I'm getting a big beating. And I'm not talking about the beating we're talking about here. I'm talking about real beating.
Not just a slap on your face.
No. And I'm not going to go into this, but when I say beating, a real beating, literally leave scars on my body, if that would explain.
Wow.
But then I know she loves me. And with what I know now, unfortunately my mom's late now, but she was kind of, you know, heartbroken.
Touching on just what you said regarding your mom and regarding the beating and what she's had to go through, isn't it just amazing how, you know, especially women, they go through certain things, and not because, you know, not knowing how to deal with those kind of situations, it can really result in women bottling up over a period of time and then taking it out on their children. Exactly. And especially not knowingly. Just like you said, there's our own frustration of finding herself in a situation where she's having to bring up two little children, having to relocate, go back home, and then all these challenges that she's facing. Absolutely. It must have been quite a bit for her. Absolutely. And then obviously, just like you said, if your dad was her first love, and you know, we you know, as women, we all know the impact of that. And then, you know, having to, and I think it's an issue that shouldn't be ignored. No. Absolutely. It's an issue that really should be dealt with. So how were you able to deal with that, with all that was happening? In
terms of, I had my outlet somehow. Going to school for me was a kind of respite away from that. But funny enough, this carried on all the way till I finished secondary school. Okay. And it's not that my dad wasn't accessible. I knew where he was. Really? I remember one incident in school, and I mentioned who my dad was. He's quite wealthy, well known. Okay. And I mentioned his name, and somebody said, "Oh no, that can't be your mom. Your dad. Right. Is it because you have the same surname? Everybody wants to be connected to a wealthy person." Really? And thereon, I just said, "My dad's dead." So you can imagine living with that, knowing fully well that your dad is alive. Yes. So I dealt with it that way, but really, running away wasn't going to deal with the situation. Exactly. And for about 10 years, I ran away from the situation. I went into my shell. I didn't really face it. Okay. But then, during my youth service, I was 20 at this time.
This was still in Nigeria.
This was still in Nigeria, 20 at the time. Yeah. I gave my life at 16. Okay. But giving my life at 16, the only reason why I did it then was because, you know, earlier on I spoke about being accepted by a group. Yes. I just felt I couldn't fit in. But then I saw this sect of people. They kind of looked like me. Okay. They were wrapped up.
What do you mean they kind of looked like you? What did you look like?
We didn't have any money, so I can count the number of clothes I could wear. And these people were kind of very humble too. We're all wrapped up, wear long sleeve, not many clothes. But you know, I felt that might be the best place I needed to fit in. Yeah. Okay.
You saw something similar, something you felt you could connect to.
Absolutely. You know, in those days we call them SU, now Scripture Union members. Do you know those ones?
Yes, I do. No earrings, hairnets wrapped up.
Exactly. Yes. So they looked like a group of people that I felt, I could connect with it. And all you needed to do, so I, you know, found out a little bit about them. And all you needed to do really was say the prayer. I was a Christian. I knew no other thing. I was going to church. I went to a Baptist church. Yeah. But it was like, say this sinner's prayer and the life will become
Is that all I need to do?
Is that all I need? Yeah, and then you'd love me, you will accept me. They even buy you gifts. I mean, it was just the ideal.
Out of a child, even a grown-up still looking for acceptance, isn't it?
I was up till at that point I was 19 and going 20. Yeah. But then I knew there was much more. There was still a hunger. There was still a yearning that this cannot be it. It was, even though I was getting the attention, I had a group of people checking on me, buying me things. I was still not satisfied. So I realized that I had to take ownership of my life. And who else to go to than the Creator himself, the person that created me. So I decided to lock myself during youth service up one day. And I said, Lord, who are you? Where are you? Reveal yourself to me.
I've heard about you. What's this all about?
What's this all about? Who am I? I even needed him to tell me who I was. Sure. And I had this dialogue. And believe you, it was about 9-10 hours in this room crying, praying, singing, all sweating. But all I can say is I came out of that room, I knew a changed person.
Wow.
All along, I knew there was a lioness in me. There was something in me. I'm not that timid person. Everybody knew me as that timid person. Guess what my nickname was in
What was your nickname?
Timid.
That says it all, I think.
It says it all. But I didn't want to be that timid. I knew there were so many other things in me.
So let's just move forward. So getting into the UK, how then did the things flow once you got into the UK? Coming into the UK, I'm guessing you came back?
Yes, I came back at 21.
Okay, so just shortly after that
my youth service came back. But bear in mind now, the person coming back to UK was not the Timid.
That's what I wanted to touch on.
It was a lioness coming back. I was coming to take territories.
Oh, that's good.
So when I came in,
like that.
yes, I was coming to take territory. I was, I came with that mentality. But the lady, my cousin, who I stayed with temporarily, she said, "Oh no, you can't," because I didn't really excel that much in my academics because of all the baggages I was carrying. Okay, so I had a second class lower, and her advice was, "Why don't you go back to school and be trained?" But I thought, no, I had a degree in computer science. God, I can't explain it, so I'm going to be referring a lot to God because I know how He speaks to me. It's so clear. I knew it was accountancy was my roots.
Okay,
and I wasn't wanting too much. Let me tell you what I wanted. I wanted to go back and do the professional qualification of accountancy. Okay. But I didn't want to pay for it. Not asking much. No. Didn't want to pay for it. I wanted an employer that would employ me. And as I'm passing the papers, about 12 papers or so, I'm getting promoted on the job. And I knew the salary I wanted. Fresh from Nigeria. That was my dream. That was
really?
Yes. And my cousin said, "Oh no, not even... Which university are you coming from? You need to come from a Russell University. You need a first class." And I said, no. I know that God is with me. He's going to go ahead and create the opportunity for me.
It's the boldness speaking, isn't it?
The boldness speaking. And I also did a study on favor. Okay? Because I believe that if we understand our place in the kingdom and what we carry and the favor of God, to be honest, doors have to open. If they're meant to open for us, they will open. And the ones that need to close will close.
That's right.
Yeah, so it wasn't that easy. It took me 9 months to get, I did get that job. Okay. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. Right. It was a graduate trainee role. And they only take one in the organization a year. I went through all the stages and I got to the final stage.
How many stages were there? Because I know that some go up to 7 stages.
Oh, this one was 3. Okay. So we had like aptitude tests. You do different tests. Okay. Then we had an assessment center. But the assessment center is over 2 days. So it's residential 2 days. Right. Okay. And then the final stage is where you meet with the senior member in the organization. Okay. From recollection, there was HR, the chief executive, and the borough treasurer, like the chief accountant. Let's put it that way. And after going through all that, guess what? Did I get the job? No,
Did you get the job?
I did not get it. And that was very disappointing because I really thought that was my job. I didn't get it, but I didn't let it go that way. That boldness in me spoke. I went back for my feedback to the most senior person on the panel.
Do you normally go back for feedbacks? Or you just decided?
There wasn't an opportunity, but this was an opportunity. I thought that job was mine. So I thought, why? So I just went up to him and the first thing I said, because when you meet people like that, I didn't have an appointment, by the way. Okay. So I knew that I needed to win.
So you practically badged your way.
I badged my way. So I only had a minute or 2. And I just said, "Why didn't you give me the job?"
And who were you speaking to? Who was this?
He was the chief executive of the organization at that point in time. God orders the steps of the righteous.
He definitely does, from what you've done.
And he said, oh, we only take on 1 in the year. You were almost there. I said, what would it take? I'm coming back next year. And of course, I was back next year. And I remember him winking, and I winked. And
really? Where you were the session?
Sorted. Sorted. So, yes, that was how I started my career, my accounting career.
You know what? Thinking about that just says a lot to me. So really, there are so many opportunities in life that if we had just gone that extra mile, we might have secured. Because you could have been one of those others who had said, okay, I didn't get it, turned your back and then just left it. Yes. And, you know, it probably would have taken you a lot longer to climb up that career ladder than it took you because you had the boldness to be. And that boldness is not man built. It's not man acquired.
Absolutely not.
You know, that can only take the boldness, because that also boldness has to have dealt with some background issues which you had for you to get to that level.
Yep, definitely.
So that was how you got that.
Yeah, that's how I got my job, and that's how I started my career. And then, you know, God granted me a lot of favor, and I kept on moving and progressing. But then I hit a glass ceiling in one of my organizations. Okay. And that's really what gave birth to Career Nuggets.
Right. And I'm really curious to hear what that was.
Okay. So as an accountant, I was a good technical accountant, doing really well in senior management. But I really wanted to break into directorship. I wanted to break into strategic management. That's where the decisions are being made. Okay. That's where you can influence the organization.
Very true.
And, you know, a man's gift will make room for him and present him before men, you know, great men. And I thought, that's where I need to be. Yeah. But for some reason, they didn't think I was good enough. I never really got those jobs. And then one time, even as a senior manager in one of the organizations I was in, I was told, actually, we want you to go back as a manager. We'll keep your pay, but at the moment we're doing a restructuring, and we just think...
Is that not like a kind of demotion? Demoting?
For me it was, even though they were going to keep my pay, but I thought no. And I really struggled. I didn't do that, so I decided to take redundancy. Okay. So in terms of Career Nugget, the funding of Career Nugget came from that redundancy pot of money. I wanted to use it to be a blessing to others. But the key thing is, when I always went back for feedback about, you know, not getting these jobs, they kept on telling me, you're too operational. You're not strategic enough. Right, okay. I never understood what that meant. And then I decided to get a mentor who then coached me. Then I realized that, oh, they're not really being racist towards me or discriminating against me. There were certain things that I needed to develop in myself. Okay. So progression in a career is not just about the qualification or being technically sound. There are some soft skills. There's some things that you need to know about your networking, your language, the language you use. Right. The language at senior management is different from strategic management, is different from operational management. Excellent. And it's all those different things that I then realized, and I thought, why should I only benefit from this? Others need to benefit from it. And that's how, yes, Career Nuggets came to be. So really
it was from where you had that sort of, you know, bottleneck situation where you weren't seeing yourself progressing, that led to you seeing the importance of a mentor, and then seeing, okay, so these are the little things. And that is so significant, because you get to certain levels in your career and you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? That CV is going out. You know, what are the things I'm doing wrong that we're not getting right? And that's what Career Nugget does. Yes. Yeah, I have seen your show, and I've seen how, you know, you bring people an inspirational. What was, you know, aside what you've just mentioned, what really is the drive for you behind Career Nuggets?
The real drive for me is, I see Career Nugget as that one-stop shop to support any forward-thinking professional to move to their next level. We all have a next level. Whether you're a graduate, you want to get onto the ladder. If you're on the ladder, you want to be a manager. If you're a manager, you want to be a senior manager. Even if you're a director, you want to be a board member, or probably be that person that actually creates opportunities for others. We all have a next level.
Excellent. And obviously, from your journey, I can begin to see, you know, how key situations and key circumstances are sort of like build your character. There was something you mentioned to me when we were talking about that I think is quite, you know, important. We mentioned just before we round up. You've lost both your parents.
Yes, I have.
You went for your dad's burial.
Yes.
And you went for your mom's burial.
Yes.
Your dad was a very wealthy person. Very. And your mom, you know, managed to, you know, bring people up. Tell me what you experienced during those two burials, and in terms of where you are now.
Very key, actually, because in terms of Career Nuggets, I guess I want to give back. I want to leave a legacy, and that links it to what happened. These are the two people, because I must say, even though my dad abandoned me, when my mom died, my dad found us, and we had a very lovely relationship for 13 years. We made up, fantastic.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. So God gave us that, my sister and I, that opportunity to bond with my dad. And he would always visit us here twice a year. Oh, but what then happened was, he being a wealthy man, well known, a lot of friends, his funeral, yes, it was a very big environment, but wasn't impactful. You just had people just like another gathering, really. There was nothing cogent to hold on to. On the other hand, my mom died at 52, very young. So you would have said she hasn't really explored life that much, you know. She was a nurse, but her funeral, a whole road was closed because all the nurses in one of the teaching hospitals in Nigeria, UCH, they wanted to pay their last respect. So my mom's coffin was just, escorted with all these people in white. Wow, on the whole road. Beautiful. Not only that, people from different backgrounds, from people selling goods, everybody was on the street. The whole long road was closed just to escort our corpse to church. And with the service of songs, the testimonies, that same night, guess who gave his life? At my mom's funeral, at wakekeeping, this person was a chain smoker, drinks a lot, a social man. That's my dad. Wow. He gave his life at my mom's service of songs, amongst others. There must have been about 30 people that gave their life. My mom's life till today, she's died now, almost 25 years, and people are still talking about it. She's left a legacy by the things she did. So from the two lives, my dad left a lot of money, probably is all squandered now. But what do you leave behind? You've got to leave a legacy, things that people can benefit from even when you're gone. A lot of us are benefiting from that. She kept on sewing. Giving. She was just giving. Even for the funeral, the whole expenses was paid for by others, not us.
I remember you were saying that I think the last day she had gone to buy bread.
Yes, she'd gone to the bakery to give out to people.
You know, and it just shows the difference of when you live a life of giving, a selfless life.
Selfless life.
You know, and also the fact that she also at some point gave her life so she was healed of,
she
whatever.
Was healed.
That is just such a beautiful journey.
Yeah, she was healed. Yeah. But she was a giver, irrespective. She was always a giver. She gave her life for us as kids. Yes. She never remarried. I mean, like I said, my dad left her when I was 18 months. She could have. Yes. She was a pretty woman. She should have gone off and remarried, but she didn't. Because she wanted the best for her two daughters. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And we give God glory. God has really glorified himself in our lives.
Thank God for that. And we can see that, obviously what you do, again, sort of like carrying on that legacy, wanting to impact people's lives. I know that with Career Nuggets, you've got people through, you've got them employment through them. And that's really what it's about. So I think one has to come to a stage where you then begin to think, my journey in life, where has this ended up into? Am I one that is so constantly taken, or am I one that is constantly given? And obviously your experience with God began a beautiful relationship. And again, I think just before we round up, I'd really like to touch on that, on having a personal relationship, not just about what you hear people say about a relationship with God, but actually experiencing it yourself. Just before we close, would you just like to touch on that, really, about how you found your relationship and how it's just been able to see you through your journey?
Like I said, when I really went to find out who God was, I think God to me, and it might be to others, but he's like a friend. So when I'm talking to God, I'm talking to him. I know that's a prayer, but I'm really just chatting with him. So I don't need to find myself, because I need to talk to God, I need to find a separate room, I need to set time aside. I'm constantly talking to him. As we're doing this show, believe you or me, I'm having a conversation with my Father in my heart. That's the relationship I have with God, but I'm very sensitive. When he says things, even though they might sound so strange. I remember one time, and if I have time, I'll just quickly touch on this. There was a company I wanted to work with, PricewaterhouseCoopers. And you heard my background and all that. How do you get in? Even when I called them for the application form, they wouldn't even send it to me. But this is what God told me to do. They have this revolving door. And I kept on going around that revolving door. Even my friends made fun of me. I'll go in like I was walking there. And when people are coming out, I'll come out with them like I'm one of these people walking there. But I was claiming my territory. Yeah, and 5 years later, I was walking there. And I walked there. So, God can say things that sound really strange. Yeah, but just do what he says. Whether it's appealing to other people or not, just do it.
So thank you for that. Yes. And thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for glorifying God in your journey. And I do wish you all the best with Career Nuggets.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.